Pixels and Playbooks ASMR. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope tonight's video helps you relax. Whether you're trying to unwind, finish your day, or maybe even drift off to sleep, tonight we're taking a trip back into the Marvel Universe. But instead of jumping directly into the newest movie news, we're going to revisit one of the most controversial Marvel games ever released. As you're watching, I'll be playing through the opening tutorial of Marvel's Avengers on the PlayStation 4. And honestly, every time I come back to this game, I can't help but think what a shame it really was. Because underneath all of the controversy, there was actually a very enjoyable superhero experience. The opening mission, the interactions between the Avengers, the cinematic presentation, the combat, even the performances all showed genuine promise. Then, the conversation shifted. Instead of people talking about how exciting it felt to throw Captain America's shield or fly around as Iron Man, most discussions became centered around live service mechanics, endless grinding, battle passes, and microtransactions. It's unfortunate because I still believed that if this game had simply focused on being a complete single-player Marvel adventure.
Thor! Thanks for the assist. We got civilians trapped behind those barricades. Understood.
It's remembered for the decisions surrounding him. And strangely enough, that brings me to today's discussion, because in some ways, Marvel Studios finds itself in a similar position. Not because of video games or microtransactions, but because expectations have become almost impossible to satisfy. Tonight, I'd like to quietly discuss Avengers Doomsday. As the tutorial begins, we're immediately introduced to A-Day, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, Hulk. These are, for many people, the Avengers. Even after all these years, it's hard not to smile seeing them together. It's nostalgic. You can almost remember what it felt like during the Infinity Saga. Every new Marvel movie felt like another event. Every trailer became an internet phenomenon. Every post-credit scene sparked thousands of theories. Marvel wasn't simply making movies. They were building an interconnected universe that audiences had never really experienced before. And somehow, they managed to keep that momentum for more than 10 years. That is an incredible achievement. When people look back at the Infinity Saga, it's easy to remember the final battle, the portals opening, Cap lifting Mjolnir, the snap, the emotional ending. But what made those moments special wasn't simply the action, it was patience. Marvel spent years introducing characters, years allowing audiences to grow attached. We watched Tony Stark mature. We watched Steve Rogers question authority. Thor lose almost everything. Bruce Banner learns to coexist with the Hulk. Every film added another piece to a much larger puzzle. And quietly in the background, another character was being introduced. Thanos. Sometimes it was only a few seconds. Sometimes just a smile. Sometimes a single line. But every appearance made audiences ask, who is this? Why is everyone afraid of him? Marvel never rushed him. They allowed curiosity to grow naturally. By the time Infinity War arrived, Thanos already felt like an unstoppable force, even before the first fight never seen Avengers Endgame, this would probably be a good time to skip ahead. I'll give you a few seconds. Still here. Okay, let's talk about Tony Stark. It's almost impossible to imagine the MCU without Iron Man. Back in '08, very few people could have predicted what that first movie would become. Robert Downey Jr. didn't just play Tony Stark. For many fans, he became Tony Stark. His humor, his intelligence, his confidence, his flaws, everything felt natural. Over nearly 2 decades, we watched him grow from someone who cared mostly about himself into someone willing to sacrifice everything. His relationship with Pepper, his friendship and disagreements with Steve, his mentorship of Peter Parker. Every movie added another layer to his character, which made his final moments in Endgame one of the most emotional scenes Marvel has ever created. I remember sitting in the theater, watching that moment unfold and thinking, Marvel had accomplished something very few franchises ever do. They gave their biggest hero a meaningful ending. It felt earned, emotional, and complete. But looking back now, I sometimes wonder, was it actually the right decision? Now please, don't misunderstand me. From an emotional standpoint, I completely understand why Marvel ended Tony's story there. If there was ever a hero's ending, that was probably it. His journey had come full circle. The man who once said he wasn't the type to make sacrifices ended up sacrificing everything. It's beautiful storytelling. But here's the question. Did Marvel tell the perfect ending while also removing the face of the entire MCU? Tony Stark wasn't just another Avenger. In many ways, he was the Marvel Cinematic Universe. When people thought about Marvel, they thought about Iron Man. Since Endgame, Marvel has introduced many new heroes. Some have connected with audiences, others haven't quite reached that same level. And maybe that's completely understandable. Replacing someone like Tony Stark or Robert Downey Jr. was always going to be nearly impossible. Which brings us to the news that Robert Downey will be returning, although in a completely different role. And it's certainly exciting. It was surprising. And it's also a little fascinating, because whether people love the idea or aren't sure about it, everyone is certainly talking about it. Maybe that's exactly what Marvel wanted. Conversation, speculation, curiosity. But I also wonder if his return is Marvel's quietly acknowledging how important his presence always was. Again, I'm not saying bringing back a familiar face guarantees success. Not at all. If anything, it creates even higher expectations, because now everyone is watching to see whether Marvel can recreate the same magic, which naturally is going to bring us to Doctor Doom. And honestly, I'm not so sure how successful Avengers Doomsday will be. Not because Doctor Doom isn't incredible. It's actually the exact opposite. Comic book readers have known for decades that Doctor Doom is one of Marvel's greatest villains. He's not simply an evil genius. He's a king, a scientist, a master inventor, a brilliant strategist, a powerful sorcerer. Sometimes, depending on the story, he genuinely believes he's saving humanity. That's what makes him so interesting. He's not evil just for the sake of being spent over a decade building Thanos. His influence was always present. The Infinity Stones kept appearing. The cosmic side of Marvel continued expanding. Everything felt connected. With Doctor Doom, it feels very different. Perhaps Marvel has a brilliant plan. Perhaps they're intentionally keeping everything a secret. And if that's true, I genuinely hope it pays off. Because surprises can be wonderful. But if audiences are expected to immediately care about Doctor Doom without the same build-up, that is a very difficult challenge. Especially with the comparison to Thanos, one of the greatest comic book villains ever put on screen. As we're watching Captain America throw his shield, or Iron Man flying across Golden Gate Bridge, I can't continue to help thinking about the potential this game had. It had so much of it. Marvel Studios still has plenty of it too. The Fantastic Four are finally arriving. The X-Men are somewhere on the horizon. Doctor Doom is finally entering the spotlight. Those are exciting possibilities. Maybe the next saga doesn't need to copy the Infinity Saga. Maybe it simply needs to tell its own story. And maybe that's exactly what Marvel is trying to do. Now, I could be completely wrong. Maybe a few years from now, we'll all look back at Avengers Doomsday the same way we now look back at Infinity War. Maybe Marvel is setting pieces in motion that we just simply cannot see. After all, they've surprised us before. I'd honestly love for that to happen because as fans, we all benefit when Marvel succeeds. These characters deserve incredible stories. Doctor Doom deserves to become one of cinema's greatest villains. I just hope he's given the time and the development to truly earn it. As today's tutorial comes to an end, I think it's fitting that we're left with a reminder. Potential. It's a wonderful thing, but potential alone isn't enough. Whether it's a video game or a movie, great stories are built with patience. Marvel proved that once. Now they have the opportunity to prove it again. Only time will tell if Avengers Doomsday can live up to those expectations. And honestly, I hope it does. Thank you all for spending time with me tonight. If you enjoyed this quiet Marvel discussion, let me know what you think. Do you believe Doctor Doom can become Marvel's next greatest villain? Or do you think Marvel should have spent more time building him up before asking him to carry such a massive film?